Hello guys, good afternoon. Welcome to session number 8 of the American Literature course. So today is going to be a pre-recorded class, and it's important that you pay attention to every instruction that I'm giving throughout the presentation. Hopefully it's going to be fun for you, and hopefully it's going to be really helpful for your knowledge and the process of learning. So today we're covering the early national period, and we're going to, the presentation is going to be available at the same time of the video. So make sure you check the presentation and you check the materials. Both of them are going to be available. There are a couple of activities. Don't forget to mark attendance, and don't forget to fill up the Swift Q's number 8. That is going to be the assessment for this class. That's really important. I already checked some of your scarlet letters, and I was having fun with that. I'm still have to check some of your comparative essays. Yes, some of your essays, I'm sorry, I still have to check some of them. Because of time, I haven't had enough time, but I'm going to do it during this week or during the weekend. Anyways, good to see you. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. And hopefully we get to learn a little bit more about the early national period of the United States in literature. So this is going to be a very short class. So I'm going to give you some information, and later we can have the discussion. If you have any questions about the topic, you can email me, or you can, you know how to contact me already. All right, I stopped sharing my video, and I'm going to focus on the screen. We have a similar presentation, that you can mark in here if you want. You can, you have some information in here for you too. And you have this document that is an extension of the topic. If you want, this is optional. If you want to know more about the Enlightenment movement around the world, so this is going to be very helpful for you. Okay, so we're going to move to the second one. I wanted to bring this quote for you because I think it's important that we can reflect from time to time about some things that usually happen in everyday's life, in everyone's life. I brought this quote that says, "Why fit in when you were born to stand out?" Dr. Seuss. I think it's important, guys, that you reflect. Probably it's going to be important for somebody today. I don't know, probably. But when you don't feel like accepted, or you don't feel like you fit in your family, in your group of friends, in the society in general, at the university, if you feel like an outsider within your classmates, you don't have to think that you have to change anything for you to fit in. You can just try to be better, but you don't change the essence of who you are. Yes, also study hard. Cool. So we're gonna move on to the next slide, which is the table of content. And we're gonna have the introduction, we're gonna have the presentation, we're going to explain the homework, and also a project that we're going to be developing through this coming 2 weeks. And then we're going to have the conclusion. So for today's topic, we're going to talk about the early national period, as I said before, and this is going to be a different segment, a different chapter of American literature. So let's move on. So the Age of Enlightenment, and that's the first topic that we're going to talk about in here. So much of the work of this phase in history was influenced by the Age of Enlightenment. And this has a couple of different names. You're gonna find it as the Age of Reasoning, Enlightenment, the Neoclassic era. So you might find different information with the different names, but basically it's all related. When you look at the development of Western literature, I mentioned this before, and I probably go through it again, but it's just interesting to see the ebb and the flow of the interaction that the subject, object, and the subject has, because it's basically the the interaction of action and reaction. That's that you do something, then you get a punishment, and you do something, you get a result. So the punishment part was during the Puritan and the early period, but now we have a national, more colonial national period that is going to be an action, a reaction, an action, a result. Okay. Yes. So in the European literature, you've gone from a Romanesque phase to a Gothic phase, and then we move from the Gothic phase to the Renaissance, and then from the Renaissance to the Baroque, and then from the after the Baroque into the neoclassic period. And I think that's the order. This is where you know, because of the United States, when the colonies were formed, when the people left England to form the colonies in the New World, they brought a lot of their thoughts, and a lot of their thoughts were influenced by their religious belief. And we already covered those topics before. There's a certain path that are going down between subject and object, as I said before, and this is the kind of the interaction that we have of action reaction that we're going to study here, the relation between action and reaction and the knowledge that you get as a product of any research. So it will be research. It can be compared action, reaction, research, knowledge. That will be the interaction. In the rest of the world, in Europe, this coincide with the Baroque era. So coincide. Problems with the pronunciation or but anyways, so with the Baroque era, probably in Latin American literature, you study a little bit about the Baroque, la era del Barroco, and probably you know what is this all about. So we're not gonna stop over there. But in the United States, there was much influence on religious thought and Puritan ideals. But in this part, you know, this is part of what the Baroque is. This is part of what the Baroque is, with the Puritan belief and what the religious belief, and everything is beautiful, everything is this, everything is that. But in the United States, they kind of separate that, because the development was brought up very much on the Puritan ideas and some of the deviation from the European model. Anyways, now we come across to this period, the Age of Enlightenment. And this is basically where the United States is lined up with a lot of the European belief on the Enlightenment and a lot of its value. And we can see this reflected in the writings and the thought pattern and in the reason. So we're moving from the belief of the Puritan, and we're getting more of an age of reasoning, of an age of knowledge. So we got the founding fathers in here. We're going to cover a little bit more, and not historically talking, but you know, literary talking. We got the founding fathers who contribute to the literature of the United States. Okay, the American Enlightenment. What is this all about? So basically, in the 18th century, American Enlightenment. I'm sorry for this. I'm going to fix it probably when I converted it. It looks like this, but I'm going to fix it, or in the presentation, you're going to have it differently. The American Enlightenment was a movement marked by an emphasis on rationality rather than tradition, scientific inquiry instead of unquestioning religious dogma, and representative government in place of instead of monarchy. Enlightenment thinkers and writers were devoted to the ideals of justice, liberty, and equality as the natural rights of the human being, of the man. So basically, we're moving from the belief of everything is based on God, everything is based on religion or by the Bible, and here we're moving to a phase where you say, okay, these are the ideals of justice, liberty, and equality we want to fight for, we want to stand for, we want to write about. That's basically, so don't worry about the reading in here. I'm going to fix it, and then I'm going to re-upload it for you guys. Okay, So this is a famous painting, and you know, when you think about the age of enlightenment in the United States, enlightenment is connected to the ideas of enlightening ourselves and making some change. So people in here, one more time, we're seeking change. The independence movements in here are happening, like the American Revolution and eventually the French Revolution. In other words, after that, that we're going to be a spark, okay, in this part. This phase actually influenced the movement, which is Romanticism. Part of it is going to be covered later. But right now, things are focused on the idea of reason, not about religion anymore. We're not talking about God, or we're not talking about anything else, but we're talking about reason in here, of working as a collective group, and this approaching things with logic. So in here, it's approaching everything in society, from government, from beliefs, from norms, from literature. It's not based anymore on religion. It's not based on God. It's not based on the Bible, but it's based more on logical knowledge and, you know, reason, research, and, you know, studies. This is very important for the development of the ideas of how they're going to form the country later on, and what are they going to design the way of living in the United States. As you can see nowadays, the United States and the beliefs of the American dreams are justice, liberty, equality, and no dose of the Puritan time. That is everything based on God. So a lot of what the United States is, it's because of this period, the Age of Enlightenment and the early national period. Because of, you get the Declaration of Independence in here, you get the Bill of Rights in here, and a lot of what the United States stand for and is basically about. Okay, so we're going to move. As I said before, these are some of the ways you're going to find information about this movement. So you can call it Age of Reason, Enlightenment, or Neoclassic era. I think I got some notes in here. Basically, the Age of Reason began in the 17th century in England, but it spread to France and Europe and to the and then to the colonies. And back then, still the United States was a colony of Great Britain. Philosophy of René Descartes basically is the rejection of the medieval authoritarianism. The writings of Voltaire are happening here to attack a dogma. So you see, everybody's basically these think tanks, los tanques de pensamiento basically are moving from the belief of God, that God created everything, so we should live by God, and they're moving more into logical thoughts. The founding of the Royal Society of London in 1662 for the improvement of natural knowledge. So we're seeking knowledge in here, and less God and less religion. The discoveries of Isaac Newton, natural universe can be understood by any person, offer a single mathematical law that accounted for movement of tides, earth, stars, beginning of modern science, which also awakened faith in miracles, holy books, ideas of divinity of kings. Okay, so it's a whole movement, guys. From a couple of hundred of years, everything was based on the belief of God, and you know, kings were placed because of God's will. And right now we have people in here that are developing, researching, creating knowledge, creating natural research. And that's basically the fundamentals of today's societies. Okay, like extra. Okay, so let's continue. So we get the next one, that the Enlightenment was a major movement in Western culture, in which the power of reason and objective thought influenced political, religious, and institutional beliefs. You're gonna have more details in here in the notes section, so if you wanna expand on that. So you can see here that in terms of political idea, yes, the United States were forming the new constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and other political ideas as well. Religious belief, I'll explain this in a minute, but it moved people away from some of the concrete original Puritan ideas and institutional beliefs in terms of government and church. So like I said, we're moving away from the adherence to the Bible and Puritan thought. If we compare this section and how it is much different from the previous section, all the Puritans, preachers, pilgrims, and poetry and spiritual autobiographies, as you might remember, you'll see a vast contrast between these different types of writing from the writings that we're going to have in here. Imagine we have the Constitution, we have the Declaration of Independence, we have the Bill of Rights, and many other writings that are more political, more based on knowledge and logic and the belief of liberty, equality. You know, the general thought here moving to a more, basically moving away from the Bible into a more, what is called deism. Okay, so we're going to explore about this topic. What is deism? If you go to the dictionary, you're going to have that is a noun, that is the belief in the existence of God on the evidence of reason in nature only, with rejection of supernatural revelation. And it's also the belief in a God who created the world, but has sin remaining indifferent to it. So basically that's what we have in there. Basically, this is what you guys have in during this period of time. And, you know, that's the idea where people have moved from the a more relation to the God to the relation that we have with deism. Okay, guys, so I'm going to stop for a while. Hold on. Okay, let's see. Okay, so that's the idea where people have a more direct relation with God and not necessarily through the Bible. So that will be God created the world, and basically the world is not directly involved in change. It's not directly involved in the way people live their lives. The idea of direct action and punishment is not as strictly adhered to the Bible preaches. And it's very different in here. So we have this concept, and a lot of the deists of the time here were Benjamin Franklin, James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, and these were very important and influential people in the United States. And you can see how their ideas are much different from the Puritan idea. So these believe that God created the world, but since then has been detached from it. Okay, so that's to make it clear. And we have this quote by Thomas Paine, that is one of the founding fathers. There is happiness in deism when rightly understood, that is not to be found in any other system of religion. All other systems have something in them that earlier either shock our reason or are repugnant to it. And man, if he thinks at all, must stifle his reason in order to force himself to believe them. So this is much different, like I said, from the idea, the Puritan idea, that there is a direct relation between action, a person's action, and the consequences involved in them. So the Enlightenment influenced this because, you know, the idea of supernaturalism, and the idea of witchcraft, and the idea of all of these things happening during the Pilgrim and Puritan time, a lot of these things were pushed, we're pushing people into this state of fire and brimstone. A lot of the preaching we've seen before, we're doing that. But in here, we're moving away from that, and a lot of the emotional response to that. We're moving also away from an age into a more of an age of reason, evidence, and natural phenomena to explain the existence of God and themselves. So this is definitely something that we can see across happening across Europe, happening later in Latin America, happening everywhere. And now the United States is aligned with that. And this form of reason is going to be influential for this period. Okay, so in this section, you're going to have this part that it's going to be not a quiz, but you need to answer this, guys. So at least 6 ideas came to punctuate American Enlightenment thinking: deism, liberalism, republicanism, conservationism, toleration, and scientific progress. Many of these were shared with European Enlightenment thinkers, but in some instances took a uniquely American form. So my question in here is, what is your personal opinion about the period of American Enlightenment, and how does these ideas shape the American society? So basically you need to take into account moving from, you know, a more conscious society, and not only in the belief of God. So you can write in here, you can complete the task, you can have the different parts in here, and then you submit, and then that's going to be everything. We're going to move to the next. I'm going to write something. I'm going to submit. Are you sure you were ready to submit your answers and finish the quiz? Yes. Thank you. So we can now move to the next part. And this is the part that I explained you about the homework. And the homework is going to be the early national period. Okay, so the instruction for this are going to be very important that you pay attention. I'm going to be very specific with this. You are going to form a group of 5 members, not 6, not 7, 8, 9, 10. And you are going to create a diagram, whether a diagram or a timeline or a mind map or a presentation. You need to choose a team leader, and that team leader is going to notify me via email who are going to be the members of the group. And in a later email, that person is going to notify me about the type of content that you are going to be developing. You are going to record each of the members explaining part of the content. So everyone needs to participate. And you need to join all parts of the exposition in one video. For example, you have the video of this person and the video of the other person. So one person is going to be in charge of joining everything, unifying everything. So I can get only one video per group. I don't need every part of each. I only need one part for each group. Each video should be 10 to 15 minutes long. No more than 15, not 15, no less than 10. And you're going to submit it for revision. And the deadline is going to be September the 7th. Okay? And that is going to be our last homework for this part of the semester. And you are going to include today's topic, that is going to be the early national period. Everything related to the early national period, the information that I cover is going to be part of this presentation. So today's class, you need to include it. So you need to include information about the Enlightenment, and you need to include information about deism, and you need to include information about the different movements. And next class, we're going to talk about the writers and the pieces of writing. So those parts are going to be also included in the homework and the presentation. Okay, so that's pretty much everything, guys. Thank you very much for your time. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Thank you. I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to stop recording.